Welcome back. Today is a BCW on the part 2. So, the same story we left off about, I just could remember, Dean Ambrose is part of WWE, and Dean Ambrose is showing AEW, some shit. Um, his name is Sean Moxley, aka, and he's not Sean Moxley because he's part of it WWE. Dean Ambrose will come back somehow, and I think same story. After Dean Ambrose left WWE since 2000, I say 2019 he left, and he left WWE for years now, and Dean Ambrose is not Sean Moxley because Dean Ambrose is part of WWE. And for years with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose. Some Moxley is not the same person's name to Dean Ambrose. And Dean Ambrose is part of a wrestling part-time guy. And some Moxley, aka some Moxley, is not the same person. His name is Dean Ambrose, people. And I was just thinking about the same story I had for years since 2019 when Dean Ambrose left WWE, when he sold to AEW. He started he started AEW Elite Wrestling, and he started off when he goes on and on. And Dean Ambrose wrote that book in that journal he wrote, and he's not Sean Moxley. His name is Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose is a part of WWE for years ago. When Dean Ambrose the same story is doing right now on AEW Dynamite. Dean Ambrose and Sean Moxley, aka, and it goes on and on and on. Same story, same for years past. And after Dean Ambrose, when he started off, when he signed with WWE since 2018 and 2019, I just remember my story when I'm talking about wrestling stories I'm talking about right now. But after 4 years, I just couldn't just remember my memory because Dean Ambrose is part of WWE, not AEW, because AEW is not that the same story when I'm talking about this. When Dean Ambrose signed with WWE and since 2018 when he left, Dean Ambrose left since I'd say 3 years ago when he part of with WWE 3 years ago. When Dean Ambrose signed with All Elite Wrestling with Sting, Big Show, and Sean Moxley, aka. This is part of the same story when I'm talking about this. The same wrestling, when we start talking about wrestling, the pro wrestling company, and we start talking about that. Same story about Dean Ambrose, same story with WWE, a last chapter of the show with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose, his best brothers, like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, are brothers for a couple years since 2019. I just remember my story. I'm talking about pro wrestling, and wrestling is the best in the entire world. Making I want to describe WWE is a part of history in it making athletes and make people popular and each wrestlers who's going to be the best wrestling competition. Wrestling is a part of the pro wrestling every week. I've been watching wrestling every night when I start watching wrestling since 2019 when Dean Ambrose signed with WWE a year and a half. When he left AEW, he goes on and on. The same story when he talked about WWE. Dean Ambrose loves WWE. And Dean Ambrose says stupid AEW because it's the same stuff. And he talks about AEW stuff when he left to WWE a few years ago. When Dean Ambrose left to WWE since 2019, I just couldn't remember the first match in the Dean Ambrose against Seth Rollins since last year in 2016. And Dean Ambrose started off and he started talking on AEW Elite Wrestling. He started right now. And Jon Moxley, aka, he's not Jon Moxley. He's part of the WWE, people. I was just thinking about that. My story goes on and on, and I love wrestling is part of, I say, a game, and I had to describe this now. The same story I'm talking about this last night when Chris Jericho left to WWE since 2008 and 2009. I couldn't just remember. And Chris Jericho was part of WWE and with like Dean Ambrose, Sting, Chris Jericho, Big Show has a Paul White with AEW. Same story. Big Show, his contract expired since January 9th. And if people didn't know about Big Show left WWE. Big Show left since January 9th. His contract expired since after a few years ago. When I could just remember, a few years ago, I just remember Big Show is a part of WCW for years ago with Sting, Big Show, Damon Diamond Page, Sting, Icon Sting. He's the best wrestler he is right now. Sting was left WWE in this year. He left, and Sting was a part of a TNA and TNT years ago. That's like when years ago, like Monday Night Nitro, like Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon. It was about years ago, like way back in WCW, like Monday Night Nitro and TNT. Same story about that last week. And last night I've been talking about that story. Same story like Chris Jericho is part of WWF and WCW, ECW. After way back for years ago, I just remember my memory right now. I just couldn't remember my stories when I started talking about wrestling years ago. When I started talking about that I've been talking about wrestling way back. I just couldn't just remember. Sting was a part of the WWE Hall of Fame last year on 2018, I guess. And he was part of the WWE Hall of Fame, Sting, when he continues talking on with TNT with AEW. AEW is the same story like way back 4 years ago when WCW started. When WCW started, and Sting was a part of WCW years ago. When Sting with WWE 4 years ago, I just remember my story of WWE. WWE is part of I say Triple Bomb, I think. And Sting was a part of WWE years ago when he started left with AEW's in TNT years ago. And Sting was a part of the TNA with best friends with AJ Styles, Kringle, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels is the one. Kenny Omega, Matt Hardy. Yeah, Matt Hardy left to WWE since he left since 2018. In 2017, I remember now. Same story I've been talking about this last week. Last night, when I talked about AEW sucks, but between that, AEW is the best, the same company. Once a week, I just heard that Chris Jericho went back to WWE with AEW. And when Chris Jericho came back to AEW, when he came back to WWE, and Sunset began. And I saw Chris Jericho on WWE Network on the Bucket School Wrestling with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it started talking about gimmicks years ago. When Chris Jericho started with wrestling years ago, and Chris Jericho part with WWE for years ago when he started. And Chris Jericho, his debut part of WWF years ago against Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, John Cena, and he just